So are you going to take a victory lap because you have shamed? And by the way, just so those of you who don't know, I wasn't calling Matt Kuchar a cheap bastard. Well, I was, but I was doing it because Scott Van Pelt Scott Van Pelt, who is fundamentally decent, after prodding and goading from the sewage that we are, he called him a cheap bastard last week, which is like, it's honestly like hearing Mother Teresa scorch somebody, because it's Scott Van Pelt. Like when he hammers somebody, it means more, because everybody, man, you know how hard in this business it is to be likable? This business of opinions, the opinions business. Who gets to be likable? Because Kirchin's not giving a lot of opinions. Kirchin is a journalist about the facts. He's not torching anybody with character assassination. So when Scott Van Pelt calls you a cheap bastard, it gets the world's attention, and soon thereafter, led by the Stugatz army, this cheap bastard caved and gave the caddy all the money he wanted.
It's Kuchar.
I was stubborn, probably hard-headed. In my mind, I had it as a deal is a deal, but after I won the tournament, that deal wasn't a deal, not a good deal, and you know, any transaction, all parties should come out feeling like they've won. And certainly in David's case, he did not feel like he won in that situation, and I needed to make that right.
Little too late for that, don't you think?
I don't. No, it's never too late to do the right thing. I salute him for changing his mind and not digging in on that, because he could have. He could have just taken the onslaught and everybody would have forgotten about it in 7 days.
I'm fine. I'm glad he changed his mind. I'm glad the caddy got something closer to what he thought he deserved. He still didn't get exactly what he thought he deserved, but Matt Kuchar is doing that not because he sat down and thought about it for a minute. He's doing it because there was pressure on him to do it.
And that's
as long as we get to the right result.
That's often how change happens. Like, Lord knows you wouldn't volunteer any of this stuff. You would only do it if pressured by others to do it. He took opinions.
I expect more from Kuchar, though. I mean, I'm me. He's Matt Kuchar.
You keep doing that move. You're also a cheap bastard. So, like, I don't know what the difference is between you two.
The vilification, I wrote about this last week. The vilification
$40 million
of Matt Kuchar was outrageous. I thought the reaction to what Kuchar did, and the social media vitriol and what you just quoted, Van Pelt saying, I thought it was all just an outrageous overreaction. Matt Kuchar, before this, he's a very charitable man. He does great work in Georgia where he lives with, a home for disabled, camping set up for disabled kids and all that. Does a lot of good work, but all of a sudden he's just the cheapskate champion. And he did right by the caddy eventually, but even if he hadn't, I don't think that just makes him a bad person.
Oh, it does.
No. Yes. No.
Good.
Really?
Oh, yes. No.
Drop top.
Really makes him a bad person.
For a hot spot.
I was joking, but you were really deft on your feet there reacting to my joke with yes, no, yes. Yeah, take a vigorous sip. You earned it. The Black Tux, people. There are plenty of special events that you'll need a suit for. That's why you should rely on the Black Tux to get you the right suit at the right fit for the right occasion. A cough with right, Mike, just cut that up so he can hear how terrible he is.
Don Lebatard.
I mean, Charlie Hustle. Come on, it all starts with hustle.
Stugatz.
You are really going to summon the biggest degenerate in the history of the sport.
That's right.
And one of the few guys we know to have bet on or around baseball in his team as the guy who should symbolize purity of hustle.
Why do you think they call him Charlie Hustle?
Exactly.
He always has some action going.
Yes, that guy sprinted down the line every time.
Damn right.
Yeah, he'd also hustle you
people
out of your money in a con outside of the Hall of Fame.
Nothing wrong with that.
Charlie Hustle is exactly what you will find in a sweatsuit in front of a Vegas hotel selling his autograph, because he's banned from every sports thing that they have in baseball that welcomes back Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, and everyone except him.
This is the Don Lebatard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio.
Instead of gasbagging about Kaepernick around here, everyone's got an opinion. I don't want to bore you with that. Michael McCann is informed. He can explain to us some of the legalities here that might be interesting, and he will join us in 15 minutes. But I just spent the break talking to Greg Cote, and his excuse for how the last segment ended was, I thought we were off the air. That's what he said. And I'm like, so I'm saying to him, how is it possible? You're here more than anyone else is in terms of rotating co-host. You've been here for many years. How is it possible that you never know when we're on the air and when we're not on the air? Like, I I don't understand how he hasn't learned that. So I want you to listen to Greg Cote here. We end the segment, with a dismount of some sort, a joke, a point, something that allows us to transition into the ads. This is what Greg Cote said, and you tell me what he thinks about this based on what he's saying.
I don't think that just makes him a bad person.
Oh, it does.
No. Yes. No. See, the segment should have ended about 2 seconds earlier, and it would have been perfect. So it wasn't me who blew the dismount. It was.
But it's not only that you blew the dismount, right. It's that I was making the joke.
Right.
The joke I was making is, yes, that makes him a bad person after you talked about him working with the disabled in Georgia.
Right.
I went for the joke. All you did is inefficiently say the same thing twice and then something that contradicted it once.
I don't think that just makes him a bad person.
Oh, it does.
No. Yes. No.
You disagreed, you agreed, then you disagreed again. But do you understand what Dan is saying? Dan had the end of the segment. You said it should have ended right there.
Yeah,
it could have ended right
there. That's fair.
Yeah.
It didn't end because you kept talking.
Right. No, that's good. That's a good point by you. That's a valid point. People should go to MiamiHerold.com and read my column on Kuchar, and then they would get the full view of what I think. No. Yes. No.
Should people read that column?
No. Yes. No.
I agree with that, actually. I think
I agree with the yes part of it.
Is Greg Cote a good columnist?
No. Yes. No.
Is Greg Cote past his prime as a relevant dinosaur?
Yes. Oh, look at this.
What?
Wow, that's just terrible editing over there.
What? So he says he's going to...
I know what you're doing.
This is what he says.
You're a sleuth.
That's criminal.
This is what he says. So he says to me with a straight face, he's been doing this show for years, I'm now going to redouble my efforts to pay attention to the end of segments.
Yeah, I may re-triple them. I am.
Double zero.
Yeah.
If you triple zero, aren't you still at zero? You make no efforts to end segments correctly.
Anything times zero is zero.
Yep. There needs to be a clock, a reverse clock that goes 3, 2, 1 that I can see. I've told you that for years.
You had that for a year on Dan's head.
It was a baseball cap I was wearing for a year.
Bring it back.
It said it didn't help you. It said Cody's clock on it.
Yep.
What do you mean it could have helped?
Had you worn it longer, it would have helped.
You wore it for a year.
I wore it every show for a year. There was a clock on my head that read Cody's clock.
It was a good-looking hat.
Saying like a year in, he was just starting to figure it out.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you,
It was more than a year. My God, how long did I do this for? There was a terribly uncomfortable baseball cap that had a clock on it, a digital clock on it.
Need it back.
And the only reason we did it is because he would never hit the hard network out at the end of hours.
But it's not every day that you see a hat with a digital clock on it, and that takes some getting used to. And what Greg is telling you
But it was every day,
right,
for a year.
But he needed more time.
Yeah, I did need more time. Thank you. Thank you for that understanding.
Also making it difficult, the word clock, very dangerous, just generally. The number of times that we have to say clock, it's a dangerous word, phrase like hot shot, hit foul. Look at how scared I am saying that.
You want to bring the clock back for I guess maybe one more week?
Let's bring it back.
It's Dan, Stu, and Greg Cote on ESPN Radio.